What's up, everybody? Back with another video after a weekend at the good old NCBike. This time I had the unique experience of getting out of intermediate as an advanced rider. This is N2, who I haven't ridden with in 2 or 3 years, so I had to get out of intermediate, but luckily I knew enough people that they just said, hey, we understand, we're going to pair you up with a couple of coaches and send you out in the second session. And I said, okay, I will hit my apexes, make clean, smart passes, not spook anybody, and carry a consistent pace. So I figured I'd use this as a opportunity to make a video on both what it feels like to be a bit too fast for the group you're in and how to make easy passes in a situation like this. Also, sorry for the sound. I know it's pretty rough on this $50 knockoff Instago 3S camera from Amazon, but the video is pretty good, so I guess that's what matters. I hear a lot of people talking about what times they run and how it relates to whether or not they should be bumped, but that's only part of the equation. You also have to be consistent and predictable and hit apexes, because if you miss 1 out of every 3 apexes and somebody's trying to pass you or a faster rider is coming around you, it's going to be a problem. So here I got the wave by from the coach, but I didn't want to spook this fairly new rider, I think. So I gave him or her plenty of space, and also I could tell it was a small bike, so I knew I would just roll around them once we got to the straightaway. Easy pass, I'll take it. Don't get many of those on the SV. My main reason for coming this weekend, or Sunday, that's the only day I did, was to hit a personal best. I wanted to get in the 31s, which I did. I did a 31.18, which I plan to do a data video on sometime before this month is over, or next month. So look for that in the future. I went from a 32.6 to a 31.18. This is a pretty easy pass. Just carry more speed around 3, and then use that to get around people in 4. Before they get to 4 anyway. It was about 45 degrees in the session, so I wasn't pushing super hard, just enough to show what I had to show. A pass that I like to make during advanced group and during races is, if I can't get around them enough to show them that I'm there around the outside of 7, what I'll do is I'll roll around the outside of them and just blow the first apex of 7A, which is the entry to the chicane, and then just beat them to 7B, which is that left. So I get around the outside of them, square it up, and then while they're still breaking into turn 7A, I am pretty much at 7B, and they see me and I'm gone. And it's not a problem anymore. As a roll speed rider on a roll speed bike, where I get most of my passes done on entry, I could tell a conga line was about to form, so I went ahead and rolled out and just let the conga line form, and I knew I'd just go roll around the outside of them in turn 6, which I think is what I do. Yeah, so you'll notice I never line up directly behind somebody. I'm always slightly off of them. That way when they tip into the turn and they slow more than I'm expecting or than I want to, I can just roll around the outside of them. I don't have to get back on the gas. I don't have to brake. I can just keep going, which is a big thing with passing people easily as opposed to having to change your line dramatically. You kind of let them do the work for you. once we get here, there's no point in trying to pass any of these people because they're all on bigger bikes and they're just going to disappear into the ether again. So I figured I'd wait and play nice, as the coach later pointed out. One thing I noticed when I'm looking at slower rider data is they tend to grab brakes pretty early and they hit the brake lever hard, which feels fast because it upsets the bikes and jolts them forward, but then they don't hold that consistent brake pressure. So what they should do is grab the brake pressure fairly smoothly but build up to a certain amount of pressure and then hold it there so they can push their brake markers deeper into the turn. Here's another case of just sitting up to the outside of a person and waiting for them to roll off and then going around the outside of them as they tip into the corner. This person's carrying pretty good speed, good body position, so I didn't want to play the game of outbrake them into 5. And then once we got to this traffic, they rolled off a bit, so did my signature pass around the outside of entry to turn 6. Also, people tip into turn 6 way too late. The earlier you can tip in to turn 6, the better. Then easy pass, the guy on the right, and these people I'm just going to wait for. I was thinking about rolling around the outside of this guy, which during a normal track day or race is one of my favorite passes, but a little bit too congested up front, and like I said previously, there's no point. They're just going to pass me back, so I let him have it. And he was rolling pretty good, hitting apexes, which is rare at a track day, even in the advanced groups sometimes. Another pass in the straightaway, I'll take it. Also, a pet peeve, if somebody passes you in the back half, instead of blowing back by them in the straightaway, maybe just sit in for a couple laps, see what you can learn, and if they get away from you, you can just use your power to catch back up with them in the straightaway. You don't really learn anything if you just blow back by them, and then they have to pass you all over again. I can see I'm not going to get this person before 4 or slightly after, so I set them up for 5, which is just stay to the outside of them and then brake at your normal marker, and usually you'll end up outbraking them into 5 and they'll go behind you. You don't have to worry about them anymore. What you don't want to do is try to brake later than you normally would, because if you don't make the turn or you don't get by them before they tip in, you run the risk of them pretty much charging directly at you, and then by the time you're in front of them, it's just your front wheel and they T-bone or take out your front wheel, and it's your fault. And yeah, that's the end of the session. Coach came over to me and my friend who was, I forgot to mention him earlier, but he was riding behind me and said, yeah, we're going to take you guys out of intermediate. And that's what he did. So, hope this helps. Look for the data review video at NCBike in the future, where I'm going to show where I found the extra second and a half roughly. That's just my friend Cam, who also got the bump.